Hello, and welcome back to Of the People. I'm Robert Chernin.
And I'm Ericka Redic.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We are excited this segment to have with us Jay Shepard, longtime national committeeman for the Republican National Committee, the national director for the Catholic Advisory to the Republican National Committee. He was part of the Trump Catholic outreach for the last re-election. Just a longtime, deep political insider. Mr. Shepard, welcome to Of the People.
It's a pleasure to be on your show. I've heard really good things about Of the People, and I also believe that from my research, you are the fastest growing radio audience in all of New Hampshire. That's great to hear. It's a pleasure to be on.
Thank you for that. We try hard, and I have to give a lot of credit to my co-host who really spices things up from time to time. I couldn't do it without Ericka, for sure. So, Mr. Shepard, you mind if we call you Jay?
I prefer it, or handsome, either way.
Okay, well, I keep vying for handsome with Ericka. It doesn't quite work, but I want to jump right into this because of your experience and because of your background with Catholic outreach and just supporter of faith, in the country. We've talked a lot in this show about the war on religion, and specifically, we think Christianity in particular, obviously Judaism as well, but I think front and center, this whole effort by the Biden administration to really go after what they call, sort of that white Christian, and they always throw the word supremacist in there, which I think is a crock, but that's my own take on it. So, I mean, do you feel the way we do that there is an overt war on religion in this country, basically coming in large part from this administration?
Well, I think that it's an extension of the entire plan that's based around critical theory. We hear a lot about critical race theory, but if you dig deeper into critical theory, that it's a destruction of religion. And I think it's the goal of this administration, Biden and his minions, to destroy religion, because they cannot create a society that's based on communism and socialism with a strong base of religion. So one of the cornerstones of creating communism and socialism is to destroy religion, because they want to take us away from being a spiritual animal and try to turn us into an economic animal. And they can't do that without destroying the foundations of spirituality, which are the churches and the synagogues and the mosques in this country. So that's all part of an overall plan for them that's designed to take us to a socialist state.
Interesting. So we often talk about here that wokeism is a new religion, or it's being put forth as something other than a religion, but in fact it really is. It has all the hallmarkings of religion. Is there a nexus here between what you just said about the intent of this administration, and wokeism as sort of one of the tools?
I think that it is, Robert. One of the things that you'll see in wokeism is that they want you to have a belief system. And it's a belief system that is not based around a spiritual being. It is not based around God. So what they're doing is they're trying to bring it in as a religion. And that's why wokeism, like Judaism and Catholicism, they want to get away from the wokeness and get it into the isms. And what they're really trying to do is to take us away from religion. I think if you look at the latest numbers, 37% of people in the last 5 years have gone away from traditional religion. So it's working for them. So they bring in the climate change. They bring in all these new ideas based around wokeism to make sure that they have control over the thoughts and processes of our younger people. And it's working for them. So you're going to see much more of it continue. It's based on some of the behavioral science research that was brought in by the Obama people back in 08, 07, where they really looked how to manipulate people. And wokeism is the result of that. And this administration right now is going overboard in terms of trying to accelerate all of the wokeism. And that's all goes back to the part of destroying religion as we know it. And the basis of our wokeism is very thin layer. So one of the next steps after they get people turned on to wokeism is that they'll destroy wokeism as well. And by doing that, it makes people more and more reliant upon government, which opens the door for them to create a communist state.
Wait a minute, back up. Explain something to me on this. Okay, I followed most of that, but they're going to destroy wokeism when and how and why?
Wokeism is a transition. It just transitions people away from religion into another set of beliefs.
Interesting.
Once they find out that those set of beliefs left them empty, it opens the door for people to become more reliant upon government itself. And
because they're
the
so
ultimate goal.
disoriented. Oh, it's almost like it's so disoriented, right? We remove the truth. I think, Robert, in one of our segments last week, what was it, like 60 or 70% of churches don't teach the biblical worldview anymore. So,
Right.
So Jay, if we then move people to wokeism, and that becomes the new thing where people find stability, and then they remove that, there really isn't anything left but government, or, that's how people will see it.
You're absolutely right. People are dependent upon organizations. They're of other people, and they're going to find themselves wandering aimlessly, and you're going to find a leader. I don't know if I want to call it an antichrist, but a leader to come and say, I'm Jim Jones, and I'm the government, and I'm the only one that can give you guidance and direction. I'm the only one that can provide spirituality to you. And that's their overall goal. What they fail to realize, and the Soviet Union went through it, Russia went through it, China's going through it to some degree, is that we are not economic animals. We are spiritual animals, and we believe because there is truly one God. And to worship that one God is really the true answer. And I think it's going to take us a long time. We're going to fight through a lot of this until we actually become stronger in our faith. But the country's going to go through an awful lot before we get there.
Well, and I think it's interesting, Jay, just to remind everybody that the fall of the Roman Empire was happening when Jesus Christ was doing his ministry. So there are extra parallels that I think are really interesting for people. If you look again at history, the fall of Rome was happening when this new religion was burgeoning, when the Messiah came. And so, I think it is important to see the correlation between government and religion and people's desire to have some semblance of foundation of truth and stability. And they're going to be looking for it. And so who's going to answer that call? Is it going to be the government, or is it going to be the church? And I'm really curious to see what's going to happen.
Well, and that's why we have to fight back. And we have to believe in, we have to protect religious freedom in this country. It's vital. It's right with the First Amendment. It's right there with freedom of speech, because it is the same. The one thing that I want to point out, when you take a look at some of these leaders that don't believe in God, and when they believe 9-month abortions, taking the life of a child on a regular basis is okay, and in no real moral compass, it's because they don't believe in God. And when you don't believe in God, you sometimes start to believe that you are God. The Bible says we shall be little gods, and we should be all little Christians and all of that. But this is different. They're talking about themselves, and they believe that they truly have the power of God because they can influence people and they can make decisions that take life away. And so you'll see it regularly in these people that become very arrogant within their own status because they've lost the faith in God. And it's horrible to see. You see the people like Biden and Pelosi and these other people using God and using faith to try to justify what they're doing, but they're godless people, and they are really just trying to become gods themselves.
Appreciate that, Jay. That's good to think about, and I think you're correct. Let me segue for you, because I want to get to sort of the current political environment. Obviously, we're in the middle of a primary season. we as Republicans or we as conservatives haven't done really well the last three cycles. I mean, you certainly 2018, 2020, and you can even argue, as many have, that 2022 we underperformed. And I know as a national committeeman, you take great pride in helping to field good candidates, raise the money we need, guide the RNC as it guides sort of the political process. But how come, and this is sort of a wide open question, why aren't we doing better on election day? Because we seem to, I think we win the hearts and minds, and even the pocketbooks, there's a lot of people up now have supported conservative causes, but we're not winning in Novembers. What's your take on that?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. And quite honestly, the Democrats have done a better job than we have. They've convinced people of their values, that they're listening, that they care more than the Republicans do. And there's an overall lack of understanding by Republicans that there's more to it than just being right, that we have to spend more time doing the nuts and bolts. The Democrats have done a very good job of taking over our elections. Mail-in ballots are changing the way people vote. It's changing the amount of people who are voting, and not in a good way. One of the things that you'll see is that turnout, they keep talking about turnout is better. Well, what's happened in the past is that a lot of people, quite honestly, were not paying attention. They didn't have the energy or the excitement to go in and show up on election day to vote. But now that they have a piece of paper in their house, it's easier for them to fill it out and just mail it in, because they're not committed to the process. They're not doing the homework. They're not listening. And it makes it much easier for the uninformed voter to vote. And when they're told by the media, which pretty well is controlling a lot of the election messaging in this country right now, that they should be voting for the liberal Democrats because they care more about these people. They care more about giving something. But in the long run, it's a weak message by the Democrats, but we have to do better as Republicans of getting that message out. We don't do the ballot harvesting that the Democrats have done. One of the tough things is the morality of our party. We believe in doing the things that are right. The Democrats, however, believe in doing the things that give them the best advantage. And we can't sit back any longer and just let them get away with doing the dirty tricks, the dirty deeds, whether it's election integrity or something else, and not playing in the same game. And we're not doing the work necessary to push the limits the way the Democrats are pushing the limits on what's legal and what isn't.
Well, and they seem to be willing to lie too. I mean, you know, the reports that have come out in the news the last week with the the Joint Chiefs or whatever, that we now know the Biden campaign solicited and then had, administrative state actors basically cultivate a lie to help him win an election. And I'm asking, I listened to that and I was like, that sounds like a coup. So if Democrats are willing to lie and basically have a deep state coup in order to win the presidency, and us Republicans are over here being like, we got to tell the truth and have integrity. That's tough.
A challenge too. That's a challenge for us. One of the other things that Democrats do very well, and I think you've just seen it with the Soros committing for $500 million to the causes. They form C4s. They form other political action groups. One of the things Soros is doing now is what he calls social impact initiatives, creating businesses that are going to be involved in basically in moving election messaging and giving somebody something so that they'll go along and vote with the left. So we don't do that as Republicans. There are a few cases here and there where we've got some strong C4s, but they're using outside influences. And one of the things that Citizens United did is it opened the doors up for all kinds of outside money. Soros can now spend $500 million in the upcoming, between now and 2024, Where if I want to give money to one of the presidential candidates that's coming up, I can give $6,600. So when you talk about how many $6,600 it takes to match $500 million from one person that wants to influence the electoral votes, it's no comparison. And here's a man who wants socialism. He wants communism. He believes that communism and socialism is great, and it certainly is if you're at the top of the heap. We look at any country, Castro lived very, very well. Putin lives very, very well. So you and your comrades can do very, very well. And the money part of it just gives you more status and more power. And that's what the Democrats have been using. They've been using these organizations. They've been using these big money funders to change the way people receive messaging and to make promises to them that should not be made.
So, you talk about informed voters or people who are voting that are basically, let's call it what it is. They're lazy. They wouldn't make the effort to vote and do their civic responsibility unless, of course, someone hand delivers them a ballot or harvests the ballot for them, right? And I'm not asking you to endorse a candidate, but there is one person running on the Republican side, Vivek Ramaswamy. You have to pronounce that for me.
Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy. Thank you. New set of lips today. He put out a proposal that he felt there should be a change to the Constitution where only people who were 25 years old or older should be able to vote, unless, here's the caveat, unless you've served in the military or in some first responder capacity. And it's an interesting concept because I would argue that the voters, a lot of people are not informed. We get our news in sound bites, as you know. Most people don't participate in the process. Obviously, getting a constitutional amendment, Jay, is going to be difficult. What do you think about that?
I have a lot of respect for Mr. Ramaswamy. I believe, though, his proposal on the 25-year-olds voting is really off base. And to change the Constitution would be a disaster, especially in that area, because what he's really saying is that you can earn the right to vote. I think a democracy and a constitutional republic that we have, you do not have to earn the right to vote. It's no different than some of the Jim Crow laws and all of those kind of things that went on in the past. So his concept of, the informed voter and all of that, I agree with. But the concept of changing the Constitution so that you have to earn the right to vote if you want to vote before you're 25 years old, I think is misguided. And I think it was more of an attention getter. And it wasn't completely thought out the way that it should be.
Interesting. Jay, hold that thought. I know we only supposed to have you on for one segment. I know we have to go to break. Would love to keep you on for the last segment. There's so many other things we want to talk to you about. Can you stay with us?
I can stay with you, Robert. Sure.
Good. Folks, you are listening to Of the People with Robert Chernin
and Ericka Redic.
And National Committeeman Jay Shepard, who's going to stay with us. We got to go make some money on the break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. We are Of the People. You can find us on Rumble. You can find me on Twitter at RB Chernin
And I am at Ericka Redic.
Look us up. You'll be entertained.
That we guarantee.
Absolutely. She's never wrong.
Ever. Just ask my husband.
America came into being based on a shared belief and a common set of values. Unlike other nations that were bound together based on common ancestry, race, or caste, we came into being based on a simple and shared set of ideals. That the power of government is based on the consent of the governed. That life, the freedom to live life on our own terms in our own way, free from government interference, and liberty, our most precious value, and the pursuit of happiness, which means we are free to pursue that which we choose, with the knowledge and courage to know that nothing is guaranteed to us in this life. Those values, America was founded on these basic inalienable rights. Freedom to pray to God in our own way. Freedom to think and speak freely without fear of punishment or harm, and freedom to gather in our places of worship and in our local taverns, and freedom to defend ourselves, our families, our homes, and our neighbors as we see fit. The American Center for Education and Knowledge is dedicated to protecting American exceptionalism anywhere and everywhere it is threatened. ASIC is a 501c3 and depends on your tax-deductible donations. Please help us continue our fight.